Hey guys, and welcome back to another Cultured Boys discussion. I'm Pepe, and I'm joined by Nathan. And today we're going to be talking slice of life, like series, manga, anime. But it's a little bit different because I'm a very big fan of slice of life. But Nathan, you're not that big on it, are you?
No, I don't quite understand it, and that's why we are doing this episode. Pepe is going to explain to me what's so good about Slice of Life.
I'm gonna try my best because I'm like I've been a fan of slice of life, like anime and manga since I don't know, since I like started, I don't know, getting properly into the whole like anime manga scene. Like, because I used to, like, obviously, like any kid that gets into it, I feel like you get into it via like your Dragon Balls, your Yu-Gi-Ohs, like One Piece, all those big
Yeah.
ones, and then you find little smaller ones, don't you? And there's certain series that I found slice of life. Like how I got into slice of life anime is like probably just picking up random ones that I might have heard of, like within like Shonen Jump or something, or like some people go crazy over this certain anime, so I give it a watch. And then yeah, that's how I kind of got into it. It's a bit of a weird one, but trying to explain. But yeah.
Fair. Okay, well, I guess just as a general point, what is Slice of Life?
So slice of life is basically like when you think of manga and anime, you think of like over the top, you think battles, you think of like mad shit that's going down.
Yeah.
But like with slice of life, it's more grounded. This is like more, it's focused on the story, it's focused on characters, like developing that kind of thing, and it's very much real world situations. It's drama. It's like it's emotions. It'll make you sad. Sometimes it's romance. Sometimes it's heartbreak. Like there's a lot of stuff there, and it's focusing on like the troubles of the character, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Okay.
They don't resolve it via fists most of the time, anyway. Like it's not so much an adventure. Like it's not like, oh, we're going to this part, like we're going this. Like it's more like it's dealing with a situation that character might be in. It might be topical as well. Like it might be is it something that's going on in the real world right now? Is it like teen issues? Is it anxiety? Is it like overcoming like any like hardships, like that kind of thing. Is very much, like I said, grounded real world issues compared to I'm gonna try and become Hokage and I have demons inside me. uh,
Well, I would argue it's not quite always as grounded. For example, Witch Watch.
See, would you class Witch Watch as a slice of life?
I'd
I guess
say
it
it's
is
more
kind of,
slice of
isn't it?
life than I mean, it's a sitcom, really, but like
Yeah,
it's still kind of slice of lifey because it's like a little more grounded. It's about the characters.
it's day to day stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
like we did a discussion about Ruri Dragon like a few weeks ago, and I'd very much class that as a slice of life fantasy, I guess, more than
yeah.
anything.
But I just wanted to, point out like whilst it's a generalization, yeah, there are some outliers.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like I just to double check on like what classifies as slice of life. I did like a little research into what some of the biggest slice of life series are. And the line is slightly skewed, I'd say. Like, because technically Psyche is a slice of life, but I'd define that more as a comedy. But I
Yeah,
guess I
interesting.
guess
Okay.
you can say like it focuses on day to day life, I
Yeah,
guess, is a
and
way of doing
characters
it right.
interact. Yeah, okay, I can see it. I
Yeah.
can see it.
I personally wouldn't have thought of Psyche as that kind of thing, but at the same time, there's some here on my list of slice of life that I've written down specifically that like I've been a big fan of. Like I can kind of see them skewing into comedy every now and then.
Okay. Well, I guess it's because it's like you said, it's about the situations that the
Yeah.
characters deal with. So I guess you you would end up being sort of either like sitcom or something. Like the
Hmm.
genre probably like expands a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, didn't I? Like I got into it via like certain mangas from like Shonen Jump or anything like that. Like I think thinking about it, one of the first slice of lives that I ever read, I think I've recommended it to you before. I definitely have. Is Sket Dance.
Yeah, you definitely have, and I think I tried to read a couple of chapters, but I just couldn't get into it.
I mean, I can understand why, because I like at this point, Dave, I kind of know what your kind of go-to series are, like what terms of genre and that. And this is back then, like this is like back in 2011 when Sket Dance was probably at its peak. And I was like, oh,
That was also when I was probably like my least flexible when it came to expanding
at the time, you
horizons.
were reading a lot of like martial arts manga and stuff as well. Like, if you go read something that's extra, it'd be like Fist of the Blue Sky. I remember you reading it at the time.
Yeah.
And it was that and the Strongest Disciple as well. You were reading
Oh
that.
yeah. Yeah.
Hajime no Ippo? Were you reading that one
Yeah, I
as
was
well?
reading that too. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of sports fighting stuff and martial arts. But like, yeah, like Sket Dance in 2011, 2010, I was really into that manga. And like, for those that don't know, I think I've explained it before in one of our Witch Watch reviews or something like that. That Sket Dance is basically set in high school and it's a club that solves people's problems. So, but it's also very much comedy focused as well. Like, if I were to compare Witch Watch and Sket Dance, I think I would say that Sket Dance is slightly better to me. But Witch Watch is like, I mean, I haven't read Witch Watch in a while, bear in mind. But like it's still decent. It's still decent for what it is. Like I think you dropped off it though, didn't you?
Yeah,
Like,
I did because it's the same issue I always sort of have with slice of life. It's that eventually I just see the formula and I just don't want anything to do with that anymore.
mm.
It just becomes kind of repetitive and dull to me.
I think it's a tough one. I think that's why you probably don't see as many slice of life manga in Jump, like in general, because obviously it's a weekly publication,
Yeah,
and that is like a lot tougher to get a story across. Like, if you want to, if you want a series that's gonna have longevity, it's hard to do a slice of life, in my opinion, because like there's gonna be weeks where you're like, oh, I want to just keep this manga alive at the moment. Let's just throw in some what feels like filler at times, or doesn't contribute much to the wider story. I think that like some slice of life series do fall into that, but I think like in general, the slice of life genre works better on a short term basis. I'd say, especially in anime, I think such slice of life works so much better in anime than it does in manga, just because, especially what the anime situation is like now these days. Like before, like you see like One Piece, Naruto, and all those sort of ones. They were like continuous series, weren't they?
yeah.
Like whereas a lot of anime series these days are like 12 episodes, 25 episode series. And that's like the way I think slice of life works best. It's just like if you can get one season of it that's quite short, tells the one strand, and has like twists and turns and emotions and that, I think that's what works best for the genre, personally.
Okay. So that kind of leads into like two questions I have.
Yeah.
I guess I'll start with the second one because it's kind of more applicable to the conversation at the moment. In your opinion, what makes a good slice of life series?
I think a good slice of life series is I'd say character development is always good. It's the journey you take with that character which really like sets it apart, and in my opinion, it has to be a unique story as well, like something that you definitely haven't seen before. Like if you've seen one slice of life anime or manga, and you see another one which is very much of a similar situation, you're gonna be like, well, I've seen this before in this like capacity. I've seen this
Yeah.
story been told before. I'm not too fussed about it. You know, like with Black Clover and Naruto, for example, there's some certain things that set it apart, but you can still get on board with both of them. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
some, but like Slice of Life, if they crossed over situations like that or a similar story like focus, and it kind of feels like, why do I care about this? This has been done before. I think unique situations is great. Emotions, like I have to. A good slice of life to me is something you reach the end of the series and you're about to cry, or like like you feel like, oh my god, that is so heartbreaking. That is a good
Interesting.
slice of life to me.
Okay.
I'm like one of those people as well. I've only cried at two films in my life. One of
Okay.
them is Pokemon the first movie, and the
Standard.
second one is About Time. If you ever, I'd recommend About Time to anyone. It's a rom com, but it's also very emotional. And if a series can get me that emotional to the brink of crying, I'd say that's a good freaking slice of life anime.
Okay.
Also, it
Interesting.
has, I think, twists as well. Twists are essential to a slice of life anime. It's something that, yeah, although I said, yeah, it's grounded, you also want to read it and be like, shit, what the hell? I didn't see that coming. And that's what really grabs you sometimes. It's tying in those emotions to a twist and like great storytelling. That's in my opinion what makes the a great slice of life.
Okay. So off of that list, would
Mhm.
you say those are why you enjoy slice of life?
Um, yeah, I think that's it. Like, I think it's I love a twist. This is the thing. Like, I always think good storytelling is always going to make a good watch. Like, this is one thing. Like, I will keep on. I'm not shitting on shonen whatsoever, but like, there's some mad tropes that go on.
Yeah.
Like, I think like it's good to have those series that are so out there and so different that like it's like escapism in a way that it's another world and like you can create something that isn't in this world. But like yeah, with the slice of life, like it's more grounded, it's more realistic, and for sometimes you can actually feel like it's a truer story and it's more believable. And sometimes that believability does like make a series, in my opinion.
Okay.
Off of that, obviously I'm a big fan of slice of life, but I also asked you, didn't I, to
Yeah.
watch one. I, and that series is a series on Netflix at the moment. It came on Netflix earlier this year or last year, I believe. It's called Kotaro Lives Alone.
Yes.
And I chose this one basically because it is one of the most recent slice of life animes I've watched. I'd say like they're like out of all this like one of my out of all my favorite slice of lives, I watched this recently and I've watched it twice as well. I've watched the whole series twice over. But I wanted to get your thoughts on it because obviously we're talking about slice of life here, but obviously you're not a massive fan of it. But I wanted to get your opinion on this series. Like I want to know. Obviously, I've given you a task to watch this thing, but I don't know how you got on with it. I don't know how many episodes you
um.
watched or whatever. But yeah.
Okay. So I will start by saying I think I may finally have hit the point where my tastes are starting to mature
Oh yeah.
because I only watched one episode,
Hmm.
but I was busy, so I didn't have time to watch more. I actually
Yeah.
did want to watch more. I quite enjoyed that. I don't know what it was about it, but I kind of liked the whole premise of it. It's
Yeah.
like a simple premise. It's a the kid Kotaro for some reason rents an apartment and lives by himself, but he's only 4 years old. And yeah, he's just very mature for a 4-year-old. And he interacts with this one neighbor who, although is an adult, is basically just a man child. Like, but it's yeah, actually really enjoyed it. I do plan to actually continue watching it. It was just like a really easy watch, and I felt like it's probably bad to say now, especially after I just described him as a man child, but like it was the neighbor, the mangaka was like quite relatable
Yeah.
because like he's trying to be a creative and he's just trying to make his way in the world and he's also lazy and just sort of like I'll get around to it and I just that whole character was just like oh
Yeah.
man that's like me that's
It's so
it was so
relatable.
relatable because I'm like trying to do creative things. I'm just trying to get by in life. I'm a bit
Yeah.
lazy. I'm like I'll do it next time kind of thing. And then
Yeah.
I also just liked that this little kid doesn't explain anything, also speaks like a feudal lord, and tries to put his best foot forward, and he tries to act like an adult, and he does a pretty
Mm.
good job of it. But then you get these tiny interludes where he is still just a kid, like
Yeah.
there's no two ways about it. But like he also weirdly is like more mature than some of the adults that live in the apartment so far. Like I've only seen 3 of the other characters in the first episode,
Yeah.
but he manages to like give them life lessons or like, like make them realize something and it's like that's a 4-year-old man.
See, this is the one thing that this kind of goes to point one of the points I made earlier because realistically, no 4-year-old would be allowed to stay in an apartment by themselves or
Yeah.
rent somewhere like
Also like
that.
a 4-year-old would not be that perceptive. Like in the
No,
first episode, they have a neighbor and she
yeah,
lives 2 doors down from Kotaro, and they happen to be walking past, and her door's wide open. She's like laid out at the doorstep, and she's been drinking. She has like some sort of situation, and the mangaka is like, "Oh my god, she's dead!" But Kotaro is just like, "Nah, she's asleep. Come on, wake up." Wake up, you can't sleep there. You're gonna catch a cold. It's not good for you. And then she gets up and he's like, we need to go to the convenience store. We need to get ice. So she could put it we need to get something cold so she can put it on her ice. She's been crying. And like
Yeah.
the adults are like, how do you even know that? How do you know that she was
Mm.
crying and how do you know to get like get ice to like stop the swelling
Mhm.
and stuff? And it's like I don't know. I just something about it. I just really enjoyed this series. I and again, I do plan to watch it.
I'm actually so glad that you actually enjoy this because, like, it's one of those ones where I just put on randomly. I was just flicking through Netflix and be like, "Oh, this looks interesting. I'll watch it or whatever." And the character designs are quite cool as well. I quite like them. Like,
They're cool, but
it's
they're also like for some of the characters, they're quite simple. Like Kotaro himself is simple. The mangaka
yeah,
himself is simple. I find the most complicated design so far is their hostess neighbor in 201. She's like a little more elaborate, but I guess that's also by design because she's like a hostess, so she's
mm,
supposed to stand out. And then there's like
yeah,
the Yakuza looking guy
yeah, yeah,
from room 101 or whatever.
yeah.
He also is quite elaborate in comparison to the two of them.
I think that's like it's like you said, it's very simple for the design, but I think that's why I quite like it. I think the series is quite colorful, like it has like a lot of pastel colors and that.
Mm.
Like I quite enjoyed that kind of thing. But yeah, like I just like switched this on randomly and no expectations from it, just put it on. I was like, shit, this is actually like it's quite good. And like I think I do want to talk to you more about the series itself, like and do more explanation. But I know you're going to be like watching more of it. I won't go into too much detail, but like I said, Nathan, like in slice of life, what I love is that, as I said, a good slice of life for me is something that makes me feel, and this anime will make you feel, bro. it
Okay.
like it comes through with some very emotional moments. So
Okay, I'll prepare myself.
yeah, it's like, and I want to just hear more about this when you actually do watch it because I'm so ready to talk about the series more. But oh man,
That kind of also leads me into like my
mhm.
final question.
Oh yeah.
Because you're such a slice of life fan, is there any more series you would recommend?
Ooh.
Like anime,
Okay.
manga wise, like because I know you've read and watched quite a few.
Yeah.
So, what would you recommend? Not necessarily to me, but like just to a wider like audience. Let's say, someone's just get trying to get into their first one. Like, what would you recommend?
So there is one thing actually as well because Wildebeest Sam, he's like we've watched like a few random animes together, and like he asks me his recommendations every now and then. And I know, like, obviously, I do what you like in anime terms and manga terms. I know what he likes in manga and anime terms, and he's very much like me, like something that'll make you feel stuff. And I've recommended him two series before,
Hmm.
and I know he's absolutely loved them. One of them is called I think it's Ao no Hana, the flower we saw that day, which is a really popular slice of life series. It's very emotional. It's about these kids that I think it's about 6 or 7 kids that grew up together, but then they all like fell apart. Like the friendship group just split apart. One of
Okay.
them became a shut in. One of them became like one of the cool girls. One of them's like head of like one's like really smart. One of them's kind of gone off the face of the earth. And like there's a whole bunch of different characters that used to be really good friends that just split apart because the other friend died one day.
Oh,
And but one of the shut-in guy, who's the main character, he actually sees the ghost of that dead friend,
okay.
and like through that like she says stuff to him, and like she like really wants to get the whole friendship group back together again. So it's like it's a tale of like getting those friends together and like kind of like like I don't know, trying to like spark the memory of that dead girl that was with them, like that dead friend, like all along, like and
Okay.
just like trying to get them together, like be friends again and stuff like that. It's kind of like that. I'd say that's a really good one. That is a very emotional one because the more you watch into it, you read more like well, you get more of their story of each individual character and what they went on to do while they were apart from that friendship group.
Okay.
Um, so like I'd say that's a really good one. Another one that I'd recommend is I don't think I've actually I think I've like tried to recommend this to a few people before, like a couple people. I don't think it was their vibe, but it's okay, like with this series called March Comes In Like a Lion, it's called.
Okay.
Um and it's a very emotional story. It's a very bleak story at the start. It's about this kid that's like, he gets orphaned, basically, like his whole family perish in a car crash, but he
Oof.
survives,
Okay.
and like he like grows up like about 10 years later. Over like he like lives a normal life, he lives by himself, etc. But he's also like a shogi prodigy,
Okay.
and like he like goes to shogi tournaments, and like he's like one of the best there, and like he like well not necessarily one of the best, but he's like participates in a group of people, and like he's like one of the best one in their group, and like it kind of goes from there a little bit. um but like it's about him and how he kind of opens up more towards the world, because he like once his family died, I think he was like treated kind of unfairly by his family, like because he got adopted in by his aunt and that, and like
Okay.
they
Yeah,
just
I can already
yeah.
see the sort of story thread that comes from that.
Yeah, so, like, I think, like, you find out in his past or whatever that, like, he left that family, like, he felt like he was an outsider in that family. So he left and started focusing on shogi and that. Um, I think it was, like I think the only reason, like, I don't I'm kind of explaining the story at this point. I'm piecing it together because I watched this last year, like, during lockdown. I literally got so addicted to it, it's so good. Um, but it kind of, like he didn't really wanna get into shogi, but he did. And I think it was from, like, his adopted family that he kinda got into it, and, like, his brothers and sister kind of, like they were shogi prodigies as well, but not as good as him. So, obviously, the family focused more on his talents, and then suddenly like, "Oh, I don't wanna play shogi no more because this kid's better than us," and then they kinda resent him for it. Um, so that's like kind of like the Bill backstory, but like it's how this kid kind of goes from being like, "Oh, I'm shut off from the world. I don't want to do anything. I'm just playing shogi, and that's all my life." Like he's got an apartment, but all he has in it is like this bed and like a drinks fridge or something like that, and that's all he has in it. So it's like really basic. Like he's just getting by day to day, just doing shogi and stuff.
Fair. Okay.
Um, but then, like, he meets this family or whatever. Like, I think on his way home he collapses, and he meets this family that like treat him really well, and like he becomes like part of their family, and like it becomes all integrated. It's just like it's a quite a wholesome tale that goes from quite bleak at the start to something where like he opens up and makes more friends.
Okay.
And again, there's like other like real world issues that are in that as well. There's a lot of stuff about anxiety, bullying, as well as like the world of shogi as well, and like how like there's grandmasters that he takes on or whatever, and like the competitive shogi scene, it focuses a lot on that as well. So there's a whole bunch of different strands you can go off in this anime, and I think that's what I really liked about it, because it doesn't just tell one tale, it tells a bunch of different stories from other characters perspectives as well. And that's what I like. There's not so many twists in this, but it is real world stories that get resolved, and it isn't just focusing around the main character, it focuses around other characters as well.
Okay.
And that was a really good one. I'd really recommend that. Again, it's some people might find it a bit hard at the start because it is so depressing, but it gets better. Like it gets better, and there is a great story there. Like I think there's about 2 3 seasons of it. I hope there's more because it is an absolutely incredible series.
Okay.
um but yeah, and there's one last one that I'll recommend as well. Is I feel like this is an old school one. I think again, like Ao no Hana, this is like one of the biggest, like one of the most popular anime right there. If you're gonna go for an emotional drama slice of life series, yeah, Your Lie in April is called,
I've heard of that one.
and that one, you know what? Like I tell you what, as Prosy D, I think did a sketch about it or something.
Oh, okay.
Uh, and that again, child prodigy, who has like amazing musical talent, meets this other girl who's got like amazing musical talent, and they start playing together. But I think if I speak any more about this, there's gonna be the twist, and I'm gonna ruin it.
Okay, well then just don't.
I I don't want to say anything else because the moment I say this next point, it would absolutely ruin the series. So I'm just gonna say this. I really highly recommend Your Lie in April. Really recommend it. But trust me on it. If you
Okay.
haven't seen it, it came out back in 2014, I think. So it's been a fair few
Yeah,
years, but like
that's a hot minute right there.
yeah,
Like,
but because it's not like as big as like Naruto, One Piece, all those sort of ones, it kind of falls under the radar a bit in terms of popularity. So I know for a fact that isn't like there's people out there that haven't seen this series before, and I would highly recommend it from that. So if yeah, so if I was going to recommend three series to you guys, like Nathan, whoever wants to do it right now, I'd say yeah, Ao no Hana, The Flower We Saw That Day, March Comes In Like a Lion, and Your Lie in April. I think those are like some top tier slice of life series.
cool. I would like to throw in one
Yes.
because it's the only one I enjoyed super early on. And I had to look it up just to make sure it was, but it fits all the criteria, and
Yeah.
it is actually one of its genres. Uh, for the people who are a bit more like me,
Hmm.
I would actually recommend Bakuman
Oh my god, yes. This crossed my mind when I was talking actually, but I didn't bring it up. Yeah, Bakuman is incredible.
because it's still got your battles.
Yeah.
It's unconventional battles, which more often than not I enjoy. It was a shonen, and it is like quite enlightening in the fact that you end up learning how a manga is made because it's
Yeah.
about two characters who are trying to make it as mangaka, and like I won't say any more because it pretty much you end up just telling the story.
Yeah.
But Bakuman came out quite a long time ago, but it is like it's such a solid series.
Absolutely.
It's also illustrated by the same person who did. Wait, is it the same team that did Death
I think
Note?
it's the same. I swear it's the same team, you know. I think it's the same.
Well, there you go, even better. Like, it's the same team as Death Note, so it's well
Mhm.
written, well illustrated, and it is like honestly, I classify it as one of those like classic series now.
Yeah.
Like from that time period when it came out, I wasn't into it. I didn't get into it until years after, but I kind of
Mhm.
wish I did. Like you recommended it to me for years on end, but like it seriously is like one of those classics from that era.
I think it's one of those series as well. Like, if you ever wanted an inside knowledge of how like manga is made within like the publication of like Shueisha and that, I think it's a very, very like cool thing to like just read in general, like how it works. Obviously, like I'm sure there's some bits which are exaggerated.
Yeah, but generally it's like pretty on point,
Oh,
man.
it's so good. There's so much info you get from that, and the characters are great in it as well. There's so many like diverse, there's so many diverse characters in there. Like it's so different. There's no like, oh, this character feels tropey or whatever. Like it is just
Yeah,
generally
and
like
like some of the things and situations that happen, okay, not all of them are going to be like, oh, that's so relatable, like
mm,
I forget the
yeah,
character's name. It's been a long time since I've read the series, but
yeah,
the child prodigy mangaka, their like rival, their biggest rival, and
yeah, yeah.
he can draw like he's ambidextrous and he's like just constantly drawing and whatever. Like he just gets his like
He is over the top as
yeah.
hell. That's one
He,
thing. He's like,
I'm sure there are people like that, but like that character is one of those where it's a bit over the top. Like I'm sure people can get a draft comic done in like a matter of hours, but like this character's like, oh yeah, I did like 20 of them because I was bored. You know what I mean?
that's it,
Like
innit? Like, I think there's like it finds the right balance between slice of life, like real, and then like just over the top, like you said, battle kind of series, and like over top
yeah,
characters. And
I think the most relatable thing about it is just that the main characters, the actual main characters, Mashiro and Akagi, they're real, they're very real
yeah,
and you can really relate to them. And that's why I would recommend Bakuman. Like I feel like if you can get into Bakuman, it's sort of like a gateway to slice of life. It sort of opens it up a little bit.
I'd say so. Yeah, I completely forgot that like that manga existed. Like, and I think it's one of those ones as well. It doesn't drag out massively either. Like, it has like it has like there's certain arcs or whatever. I guess you can kind of call them arcs. It's like certain story points where you feel like, I'm not entirely sold on this, but the whole series as a whole is incredible, and it doesn't feel like it's dragging out too long. Like it works. It really does work. And if I think if there's any chance that anyone can watch it, like I don't know what
Yeah,
platforms it
like
is.
watch it, read it, whatever, however you can get it. Like go off and do that, but support the official release.
Yes, definitely. Like because this series just deserves like so much love, and it is a very underrated one for what it
Yeah,
is as
even to
well.
this day, I feel like it's still quite underrated.
Yeah. It's tough. I think that's the one thing. Okay, so this is like one last point I want to bring up about Slice of Life is that I think there's very much a thing where like they're very for their time as well. Like they'll
Yeah,
reach like really peak popularity in a certain like era of manga or anime, and then obviously because they're very short lived and they're not continuous, like they do kind of get forgotten about. But anyone that's a diehard fan of them, like myself or whatever, like they'll be like, "Look, you need to watch this because it is so iconic and it is a legendary series. And if a series is that good, it will stick around and it will have that name for it." But yeah, I'd say that like there's so many out there. There's so many good ones. There's so many like tear jerkers, and you often hear about them like through anime fans or whatever. That'd be like, "Oh, this series is like top tier or whatever," at the time. But yeah, I feel like I'm waffling on at the moment. But yeah, that's slice of life. um, but yeah, do you have any other questions or points, Nathan, like about it? That's all.
I actually don't. I feel like that was quite a good explanation to just sort of enlighten people, but just enough that, you get a basis, but now you can go off and explore and learn by yourself.
Like, I think all the ones that we've mentioned today, I'd like highly recommend. And I can't wait to talk to you more about Kotaro at some point, Nathan, because it is a really good series.
I will definitely watch some more of that. But before we hit the outro, if you liked this, please do let us know in the comments. There are a few other things that we could, between the two of us. It's not always going to necessarily be Pepe Explains, but like, there's things that we both like that the other doesn't quite understand. So there's like, if you like this, we could do some more. And like, we're willing to do some more because, who doesn't want to explain their like passions to someone else? You might end up getting somebody else into a whole new world they never knew about. So like, seriously, please, in the comments below, let us know if you want more of this.
But yeah, thank you for listening, guys. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. We've got all the links in this. We've got check us out on podcast platforms. There's links in the description. And yeah, I guess we'll check you. For God's sake, I can't do it
next week.
Yeah, we'll catch you next week. See you later, guys.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.